discuss amongst themselves. Any comments, motions? Mr. Steffler's concerns? Yes, Mr. Deal.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the plan as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the plan as presented. Discussion. Yes, Mr. Brown.
You know, I've gone back and forth on this, but I really can't support the plan with the Centennial Bridge in it. I was on the historical site board, was on the planning commission. If there's one thing San Diegans are passionate about, is their history and their park. And I just can't support a plan with that bridge in there. So I'm a no.
Okay. Yes, Ms. Dunaway?
Well, there are many elements of this plan that I think are really first class, and it's really going to enhance the park. There's another group that I find very troubling, like paid parking structure in the middle of the park, but I think the benefits outweigh the costs for that. And then there is the deal breaker for me, and that is the Centennial Bridge. I join with the many citizens who want to protect the integrity of the west entrance. I think the design team did a fantastic job trying to minimize the impact of that bridge. We even refer to it as slender and transparent. But to me, it is a concrete bypass that's 44 feet wide, 405 feet long, and has 650 feet pedestals that it sits on. It diminishes the park's integrity, and there are legitimate questions about how it might worsen traffic problems, and we will not know who is right about that until after the bridge is built. It's permanent, and we might lose our designation as a National Historic Landmark, in part because of it. I hope that I will get the opportunity to vote yes for a less aggressive plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Hold your applause, please. Other comments from the board? Yes, Mr.
I've struggled with this plan for a couple of years now, and I've listened to really good reasons to have this plan approved. I've listened to some really good reasons for it not to be approved. The one thing that has struck me more than anything else is that we've opened a dialogue on what this city wants. We've also seen what can be done with philanthropic support from people like Dr. Jacobs, who has done so much for this city, and we all really respect and appreciate that. At the end of the day, I'll sum it up very simply. After listening to all this, I know that we have a very organized group in favor of it. We have a very disorganized set of groups opposing it. What the bottom line is for me is that in listening to all this, I think we can do better. And I, like Ms. Dunaway, hope that in the near future, we might be able to look at something less aggressive that accomplishes some of the things that the Jacob Plan has put forth, which is obviously restoring that area, but without the impact of some of the major construction that's taking place. Again, bottom line, I think we can do better.
Okay. Mr. Bobby Hughes.
Yes, I have not been on the board that long. However, I do have a problem with the bridge proposal. And I too would like to see something better that would eliminate that and keep us in good stead as being the historical.
Thank you. Any other comments from the board? Yes, Ms. Granowitz.
I'm going to just apologize ahead of time because I'm not very good at politically correct, but I'm going to attempt to try to be politically correct. I was on the Balboa Park Committee for 8 years, the last 3 as chair, and I was the individual that created the public process that led to the creation of the Balboa Park Conservancy. So I only say that in terms of letting you know that my view is that a robust, appropriate public process always gets a better project. It is noisy and disjointed, but when you over-control process, you end up, well, you don't end up with consensus. What you end up with is kind of what we have here today. And I don't believe that that actually had to happen that way. Part of the problem was that the people, the consultants, not so much Mark Johnson, but some of the other folks that were the leaders in terms of shepherding this project through are people that really have never done a public works project. And if you've ever done a public works project, and I'm just a volunteer, so they are harder than you can even imagine under the best of circumstances. And that's if you really know what you're doing and how you process and how you work with the public. So you had individuals leading this through who didn't really know how to do a public works project, or it was their first one. And they were trying to do it in the most complicated park in our entire system, and then solve the most complicated problem in Balboa Park. Well, other than the fact that our sewer, water, and electrical is, well, it sucks. So that I think is really part of the problem. I totally disagree with Ms. Burns, who said that if this fails, all it does is prove that you can't ever get a project done. Well, I think it's true that it proves you can't get a project done if you're not really, if you don't respect the public process and see value in everybody. And while I was listening to everyone, I'm on record in a newspaper article from many years ago talking about Balboa Park and comparing it to a dysfunctional family. So dysfunctional families, the bad thing is bad things happen. The good part, though, is it makes everybody have to talk and everybody has to listen to all the differing of opinions. And so it makes me concerned when it looks like, well, it looks like it hasn't been a free and open dialogue where everybody got to participate in substantive ways. And for those of you that were born from the 60s on, it kind of reminded me about the Bay of Pigs, where you had a really beloved, wonderful president that nobody wanted to sort of say, you're in dangerous territory here. And I mean, we were lucky something bad didn't happen, but out of that, some really good things happened. Let's see. Regarding the Secretary of Interior standards, we have a really perfect example of how that can work in this park. For those of you that don't know, the Oak Globe tore down the Cassius Carter and replaced it with a 4-story building, which is a gigantic building. But what they did is, well, from what I understand, they initially hired a consultant that designed a beautiful building, very modern building, and then they talked to a land use attorney who said, you know, you're going to have some issues with that because there's nothing about that that works with the Master or Precise Plan or the Secretary of Interior standards. So their executive director and their board went away, and what they came back with is what we have now. And unless you are a design professional or sort of a preservation geek like me, you're going to look at that building and you're not going to have a clue what makes it different, because like Mark said, it does have to look different. You've You need to be able to look at it and see what's new. And I'm sure Mike Kelly knows exactly what is new, but go and look at it, because it is a perfect example of what the Secretary of Interior is trying to do, at least that I believe, which is to have something harmonious, but that is different. And so I know that in this park you can do that. I do not believe that the bypass or the parking structure actually do those adequately at all. And something else, I was on the Balboa Park Committee when Jones & Jones, and Mark Johnson was one of the consultants. He kind of convinced most of us that parking should be on the outskirts where you capture it. And it was probably one of the only things I agreed with him on. I think Mark would support that, and connectivity and signage. And so, have we had enough money to fund the EIR following the report being released? The Oregon Pavilion lot would have, that structure would have come out of the plan as sort of the old way of thinking, because now best practices really are, and you see national parks where they really are keeping people from driving through the center of the park, and you know, technology changes. I mean, the other thing about this project, it sort of also reminds me a little bit about what happened in the 50s, sort of following World War II. We went on a growth plan of putting roads everywhere you could, with bypasses, with on-ramps, and it was all car-centric, because, especially in California, and I will admit it, I love drive-thrus. I like being able to park right in front. It's very bad. I'm trying to break myself of that. And so I think to some extent we're also trying to do technology that I think was probably very successful in the 50s and 60s. I don't think that it's working
Ms.
really well
Kranowitz,
now.
can you wrap up your illustrious comments, please?
Anyway, so obviously you can tell I'm voting against this project.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I just want to make one comment in defense of the consultants. I think there have been many public opportunities to give input into this project, so I don't want anybody to have the impression that the process wasn't open and that people were denied opportunities for input. Numerous presentations, numerous opportunities for people to voice their concerns. So with that, are there any other comments from the board? If not, we will call for the question. Will be by a show of hands. All those in favor of the project, please raise your hands where we can see them. Four in favor. All those opposed, raise your hands. The motion fails 5-4. Okay, thank you very much.